So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3.
Tastic, go.
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey folks, welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
This time we are going to do one of hopefully thousands more album deep dives. So this time we're going to focus on High on Fire, a band that Aaron and I share a mutual love for.
Absolutely.
The album in question this time around is Blessed Black Wings. Aaron, do you want to give a little background?
A little background on the album, as Nick said, High on Fire's Blessed Black Wings. So their third album. It's actually going to be turning 25 this year. Technically, already came out February 1st, 2005. 25th anniversary was like perfect.
Grew up to be a fine young person.
For sure. Little details here. Second album with Relapse. That came right after Surrounded by Thieves. Recorded with the unfortunately late great, Steve Albini.
Yep.
This is also the first album and only album with Joe Preston on bass.
Yeah, Joe Preston from the Melvins and Thrones.
Yeah, right. Name a band he's probably played in it at some point.
Or help them drive around.
Yeah. Right. Their original bassist,
George Rice,
pretty much was just like, I'm done with the touring. And then they are a band that tours their ass off.
Yes.
And
yes.
it was just too much for them.
Especially in those days.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like,
yes.
That's when they were real road dogs.
And even articles I could find at that time, they were saying it. Like, they totally understand. He didn't want to do the touring anymore. They're still best friends with him. It's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. Interestingly enough, Joe Preston would eventually do the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
And Matt Pike will tell you, they are hard on the road. And it's just, look, if you can't do it, you can't do it, you know?
Yeah.
Just in context, I just thought it would be interesting. Other albums, certainly, these are ones some of Nick and I share, but certainly in my collection, that also were released in the same year. I thought were kind of interesting contextually. You had Ulver's Blood Inside, one of my favorites from them for sure. A strong one that I'm sure we may be doing at some point, Sun's Black One.
Yes. Yep.
Queens of the Stone Age put out Lullabies to Paralyze. Ohm, interestingly enough, Variations on a Theme.
Oh,
Yeah, it came out the same year. Oh, no, fantastic. Another one I know you and I share, probably will be one we do. Kylessa's To Walk a Middle Course.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic record.
Which Kylessa coming back?
Yes. Awesome. Another one, I mean, this is a whole list of ones pretty much that you and I share. Jesu's Self-Titled came out that same year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So kind of interesting, Earth, Hex, or Printing in the Infernal Method also came out that year. Last one I thought was kind of in that same realm anyway. Boris's Pink album came out that same year.
Another great album.
So, hell of a good year for some great music in general.
Great
this
company.
Just happens, yeah, absolutely. But,
Right.
Focus mainly on this album, obviously. But, yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting to just, like I said, see what else was released at that same time.
Yeah, so, as Aaron mentioned, it was recorded with Steve Albini. Of course, we have Matt Pike, guitar hero extraordinaire and vocalist. What else can be said about the guy, right?
Modern day Tony Iommi almost.
Modern day Tony Iommi, modern day Lemmy almost,
Absolutely.
He's modern day
Commodore,
everybody,
too. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Joe Preston, the mighty Joe Preston on
Absolutely.
bass. This was actually, I saw them play during this year at an event in Long Beach.
Right on.
And Joe Preston popped two of his strings in the first song.
Oh, shit.
Which is, for me, I was like, what is going on?
Right, right.
And of course, the indomitable Des Kensel on drums.
Oh.
Who brings such an energy.
Dude.
I mean, he's always been such a force behind the kit.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he had to leave the band at some point later on, replaced by Cody Scott Willis, who was, drumming in the Melvins, Big Business, Murder City Devils.
Yeah.
So giant shoes to fill, but I
Yes.
think he does it, does it justice.
No doubt.
Right. But this lineup, almost, I don't want to say classic lineup because Jeff Matz, when he came in for the next one,
Sure.
that's the classic lineup.
That's the classic lineup. I agree. Yeah.
But this one, I think, helped establish them as the riffing force that they are now.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, those first two albums are really good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They are fantastic, and they're definitely laying groundwork. But, with this album, I think what I when I hear it, and obviously hindsight being what it is, you know what I mean? At the moment, I had no idea, but I realize now this is kind of a bridge record, you know, where you are, you know, bands will do these. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're that kind of album that feels like it's, what the hell's going on here, until you hear the next one and you go, oh, I get what you're trying to do, you know. But this one works, and yet it's pointing towards what the things they're about to do, and yet still touching on things they've already done. I mean, this album, every song but one is 5 or more minutes, where before you're talking maybe 5 minutes was the length of a song.
Yes,
you know, on Surrounded by Thieves and Art of Self-Defense. So you're already seeing them lengthening songs, progression within them, starting with a riff but ending with a totally different riff.
Yep.
You know, and then obviously as we progress with them, now it's a lot of what you would say are standard high on fire things
where
are
you
being
come to
established.
expect.
Absolutely.
You know?
They're being set in concrete in this album.
Yeah. I like too that this one, it sounds, you know, they kind of use a little bit more of their influences on this.
Yes.
You know, we were talking before we sat down to record that there are some parts that are a little reminiscent of Slayer almost.
sure.
You know, and I know that that's something Relapse did to market this album, which was like a mixture of Slayer and Motorhead, which again, perfect.
Yeah.
Right? This is exactly what that is.
I would add Celtic Frost. Maybe that's just
For
a personal
sure.
thing, but
Yeah,
I hear that in it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
You know, and you know, they I think they took some chances that worked for them.
Yeah.
They kept using them, you know, some
Yes.
of those little interludes and stuff like that, I think started coming to the fray in this album.
Yes.
Which I loved.
Oh, yeah.
We have amazing artwork by Eric Roper, a person that they've worked with many times since, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we should mention the vinyl version has an extra song. Rapid Fire by Judas Priest.
Yes.
Right? So
Even the CD is like different versions. The one I have I have it on CD. I have it on a reissue of the record.
Yeah.
But the CD, I have it with the DVD of them performing at the Knitting Factory.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, which I read in an interview, they were none too happy about because they thought it sounded like shit. But and don't worry, folks. Matt Pike is definitely not wearing a shirt. So yeah.
So you can rest assured if you were worried about that, you know, you can bet on black that he's not wearing a shirt.
And in all just full disclosure, this is my favorite.
Okay.
Of the High on Fire albums. It definitely gets more plays than any of the others. Not to say I don't like any of the others. I love the others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one just connected the first time I heard it. It was, you know, around that same time, you know, Mastodon is hitting. I think they're right in between Leviathan and the one that came after is when this album came out, you know. So
Right.
they were kind of almost, the interview I was reading, they had just got off a tour with Mastodon. So there was that
Yes.
connection. And I was
Yeah.
already into Mastodon. So I was like, oh, who are these guys? And I remember, show you maybe some of my age, cable, you know, if you got into the 600s, were music channels where they would just play music, you know, and they had a metal one.
Yeah.
And Devolution came on, and I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? And it was just like, immediately, I got to find this record, man. I got to listen to this. This is amazing. And I just never got tired of it, you know. My son and I actually, we have a little thing that we do where if he thinks their best album is the next one, Death is This Communion.
Okay.
So we like to have a little joke between the two of us when either one of us will listen to, if I listen to Blessed Wing or he listens to Death is This Communion, we come home and tell the other, hey, today I listened to the greatest High on Fire album. And then the other will reply with, oh, you mean not the one that we know.
It's a good thing you guys don't ask me because I'd probably answer like every other album since, you know, because I am that guy, especially with this band. I am that guy where all of their albums are the best albums for me. You know,
it's a hard pick, but this one is just a little cut above for me.
Sure, yeah, it's got, you know, again because of the production stylings of Steve Albini, he captured a really I don't want to say raw, but it's a very, you know, of the moment recording, right?
Yeah. It feels almost live. It feels like
exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
room with them as they're
Yes.
playing. Yes.
You know, and you can hear the size of the room because
Absolutely.
of the drums.
Yes.
Right? You can hear the size of the room because whenever Pike kicks in with the additional amps,
Right.
it fills your, like, it makes your ears somehow bigger so that you can hear more of it. Right? It's just like, God damn, I didn't know this band could do this. And here it is.
Yeah.
Right? 9 songs where they do it. A little bit more trivia. They had a intro drum part that's actually the outro of Surrounded by Thieves.
Oh, okay.
So that's linking both albums.
Nice.
You know, and then you kick into Devolution, which banger of a fucking intro song, right? Like,
I mean, we talked about it before with I'm forgetting his name, the drummer. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name.
Des?
Thank you. Such an easy name to remember. It's only 3 letters, but anyway, yeah, it's like I love that they start with that because to me, in many ways, he's the heart of that band. Like he is what powers the whole thing.
Yes.
So him coming in, his amazing, just his tom work. Like, one of the interview I was reading, I guess the guy was a big fan of drums, and he was one of his favorite drummers, and mentioned like, I noticed you don't use a lot of double bass. And he's like, yeah, I played in other bands, hardcore bands, stuff like that, where I was doing that. I kind of wanted to get away with that and use more of my toms. And I just love the way he substitutes that. And it gives, and he said it gives such a fuller sound.
Yeah.
Like, this is, it's slowly fading in those drums. And you're already like, oh my God, my God, when this guitar kicks in, what the hell my head's going to explode.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's just so cool the way they open that record.
there's
fantastic.
a Motorhead record where on the cover it's, a train, right?
Oh, yes, it's just got the head, the Motorhead.
It's got the warthog on it. Yeah. So I always felt like this album was the drums are the engine of the train.
Mm-hmm.
The riffs is the body.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously the phlegmy vocals that Pike delivers
Right.
is the train whistle.
Yes.
Announcing the arrival of High on Fire, right? Because it feels like nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the former albums.
Oh, no.
But this one is just like we're stepping into what we're about to become.
Yes.
It's no doubt that in 2019 they won a Grammy because this is what they come from.
Right.
And this was an example way back in 2005 that they deserved it.
Yeah.
They deserved it because the songwriting is top notch.
It really is.
The
progression from one album to the next,
Exactly.
it's there.
Yes.
And yet they lose nothing.
They lose absolutely
only gain.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They played on all their strengths from the previous two albums. Mm-hmm. They experimented a little bit, again with the little musical interludes, tying them into the song itself.
Well, doing an instrumental, which it hadn't done before. Ending that on an instrumental was something like you see. They're like we're. It's weird because a lot of times you feel like sometimes there's a band's second album where they go like, now it's time to stretch a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But to wait for that third album and really just go for it. You know what I mean? Say, fuck it. We could easily do Surrounded by Thieves too.
Yep.
We want to push that.
We're
more.
going to do better.
Yeah.
They're actually doing, I think, on this album what bands like Metallica thought they were going to do with Load, Reload, and everything else.
Absolutely.
Because this band took chances on themselves.
Yeah.
For sure. They were able to trust each other musically, and I mean, look what we got.
Yeah, and back to one of the things you were saying too, like the drumming. Like I love my favorite song on there, the "Cometh Down Hessian," where it does that kind of. He fills in sound, so it's like the guitar can go brum, brum, bum, 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 but in the middle of that, it's just Dez back there, and it's just filling in everything. So he doesn't have to constantly be riffing the entire time.
Right.
He can hit a fucking power chord and just let that thing hum while he's screaming in the mic, and Dez is back there, and the driving of that song, you're just like,
Two things. That's exactly how they wrote the drum parts.
Okay.
By mouthing them in that manner. But also,
I was gonna play, but
they actually had Aaron co-writing these songs. You're hired. But also, when they do the big hits, the dun 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 dun, you really feel them on this one, right? Like, I don't care if you have the shittiest stereo. When you're listening to this, your stereo is going to implode.
Well,
right?
I've been obviously preparing for this. It's been in my car for most of the week.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure my passenger side speaker is giving a little bit of... So, thank you, High on Fire.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, High on Fire, indeed. This... what's your favorite song off of this album?
Again, Cometh Down Hessian. It by far. The one very close second would be the title track, but Cometh Down Hessian just every time, man, it just gets me. And it just, that's another thing I think, like, I know there are other bands that do it, but I only associate it with High on Fire, which
Yeah.
is doing that whole like dun 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 dun
Yeah,
dun 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 dun, you know, and they're just so good at doing that into the chorus, the dun 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 dun,
Yes,
and then going
yes.
back into the. I love that, and you just like it makes you like even if you don't know the song, within one listen you go like, okay, I got it because it
Yep.
does the whole.
You
dun,
can
dun,
latch
dun,
on to
dun,
it
dun,
super
dun.
quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 dun dun dun. You know, okay, yeah, you know.
And they're one of those bands that I've definitely seen live like more than like 20
Oh.
times, right? And every time they do a song like Devolution or have another song with those big hits,
Yes.
you know, when I was able to see,
Sure.
I'd look at the crowd and whoever wasn't banging their heads
Yeah.
in unison with those hits would be the next time they came out.
absolutely.
You know, because it's so instant. It's just
It really is. It
Yeah.
is. In fact, it's funny that you say that. Seeing them live. First time I saw them live was I saw them at the Viper Room with Indian.
great
And
show.
fantastic show! And
Another great band, by the way.
Oh,
Indian.
absolutely! But it was just such an interesting, you know. In many ways, they share a lot, but in many ways, they're very different. You know,
Right.
Indian's very much tension. It's tension and release, tension and
Yes.
release. You know,
It's abrasive.
Absolutely. So there wasn't much of a mosh pit, if you will.
Right.
And if everybody's ever been to the Viper Room, I mean, this thing is just like a closet. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
tiny. But then High on Fire came on, and it was just like, interestingly enough, I actually. Viper Room had announced that they were going to play the Viper Room on Facebook, and I bought my tickets and then commented on there jokingly saying, "I hope you're near a Home Depot because they're about to blow the doors off that motherfucker." And people were liking it, and Viper Room actually sent a thing said, "That's the best comment. You just won yourself free tickets." I was like, "Well, I already bought the damn tickets, man." I was like, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." But yeah, I just
That's
remember
cool.
they came on stage and that place, it's just like somebody dropped a bomb.
Yeah.
And people were just flailing their bodies all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, and it was so much fun. And it was just insane to be in such a small place to see them do that, you know.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
You know, I've seen them about 5 or 6 times. Our last one we just did last year, right? We saw
On
them,
Halloween.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at Halloween at Santa Ana there. And that was, again, they never disappoint. You know, they're one of those bands you see live and just go, how do 3 people do this?
Exactly. That's what I was going to go to next.
Yeah.
Where it's these 3 people and they're, you know, it's been done before. There have been
Sure,
power
sure.
trios in the past.
No doubt, no doubt.
You know, of course, my beloved Motorhead being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know they are influences on High on Fire. But
without a
this
doubt.
band, you know, and I know they did it with Sleep, you know, where they created just amazing sounds with that band.
Sure.
But this one, everything that's happening with the guitar, everything that the bass is holding up, everything that the drums are doing, you cannot do it with any other band aside from High on Fire.
Yeah, there's something about just, which is interesting because technically Joe not being really a part, whatever him and Dez have, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and maybe it's ultimately Matt. No offense to Dez, you know, not being in the band anymore. But yeah, you're right. That something those two have just like creates this very unique. You know, in the interview, people, oh, or you feel like you're stretching Stoner to a new level, and Matt's
Yeah.
like, well, if that's what we're playing, I guess I don't know. I think we're playing High on Fire music.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
no band likes to be pigeonholed into any
Sure,
genre.
sure.
But, you know, it's definitely one of these things where he's just like, all I know is this is what I love, this is what I play, and when it comes out of this guitar, that's what it sounds like.
But also, in saying that, they create their own descriptor, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we have Stoner, we have Sludge, we have Doom.
Yeah.
But also now, thanks to them being so persistent about how they label themselves, we also now have High on Fire-ish.
Yeah.
Right? Which,
They've created, as Vernon Reed once said about Rush, they've created their own language. Like,
There you
you
go.
hear a
Yeah.
thing and you go, oh, that's like High on Fire.
yes, exactly.
You
Yes,
know,
yes.
and that's very unique for any band to be able to accomplish.
Yeah.
And for them to do it, and again, also not rest on it.
Right.
The albums have progressed since Blackwing. You know, so it's not like we found it and we're going to stick to it, but in a way they do. They just can expand so much within it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
leads to that. You know.
That first time that it wasn't really the first time, but when I went to see them during that year, like I said, it was in Long Beach.
Right on.
It was actually remember Jesse James, the motorcycle guy?
Oh yeah.
So he was having a birthday party,
Okay.
and I actually went because Danzig was playing,
Okay.
and the opening band was High on Fire.
Oh shit.
And I go up to the front, you know, because I wanted just to save my spot for
Sure,
Danzig.
of course.
But, I see High on Fire setting up, and I'm like, that's a gigantic drum kit, first of all, right?
Yes.
And then mountains of amplifiers.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I get it. They're playing out because it was outdoors.
Sure.
Right?
Right,
So I'm
right.
like, I get this.
Right.
Like, but like, do they really need all that? Like, what's going on?
Right.
I don't know how much more foolish I could have been, because then Matt goes on stage, sans t-shirt. Joe Preston is closer to me, and I'm just like, this beast of a man is
Right.
playing the coolest Mockingbird bass. And then they break into Devolution, right? That being the first song that I saw them do that night
Oh,
changed my life.
oh yeah.
Right?
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
holy shit. I
Yeah.
did not know that could be done. I did not know that could be done.
For sure.
I don't want to say that it inspired me, for everything else I did, but it was just like, holy shit, that was so fun.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was so fucking fun. And I'm not a dude who's like big into guitar guys, like,
I gotcha.
But seeing Matt play kind of gives you no choice.
Oh, yeah, no,
the
he
shit he
is-
does on guitar is
Yeah,
amazing.
He's somebody to watch. The last time we saw him, I was joking. It's like his expressions while he's playing. It's like he's either amazing himself or surprised the shit out of
Yeah,
himself
yeah,
of what
yeah.
he's doing on the guitar. Just the looks on his face.
A little of column A, a little of column B.
Yeah, he's like,
right?
whoa, did I just do that? Like, yes, I'm watching you.
Yeah,
You're
right.
doing that, It's interesting that you say that, too, about the idea of, opening for Danzig. It's like, I think, like you were saying, all the genres that they're putting in their music lends to this idea that they can kind of play with a lot of different bands.
Yes,
They're
yeah.
not, it's not weird that they would open up for Mastodon any more than it was weird that they'd open up for Danzig.
Right.
Their sound is such that they can kind of almost form to whatever is around them because essentially, let's be honest, I'm not against genres in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
I'm a genre guy. But in the end, what they're really playing is, let's be honest, fucking metal.
Yeah, of course.
It's
I
a
mean,
riff, there's drums, and there's a fucking distorted bass, and here we go, rock and roll.
Yep, yeah.
We're fucking doing metal. It's just, if you don't like a riff and you don't like metal, well, then I guess you'll hate them. But if you like those two things, I don't see why you wouldn't like them,
Right,
personally.
yeah.
And then we haven't even gotten into lyrics, which are fun. you know?
Well, let's start it off.
I mean, just the idea of he's clearly into like medieval stuff or lore and Lovecraft or whatever. You know what I mean? He's also gotten into some weird lizard people shit too on later albums and stuff, which is fun. But it's just to say,
I don't think he goes any deeper than just reading about it.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. No, I think he thinks it's neat because he thinks it's just this interesting, if nothing else, probably just fodder for making lyrics.
Exactly.
It's just like, well, what if I thought about lizard people? What would they do? And you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and I just love that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, when you hear the Blessed Black Wing, like you see that, I see the cover the entire time he's singing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
but songs where he's just like, led like a lamb to my slaughter. And you're just
Yeah.
like, fuck, dude, that's so fucking metal, dude.
Dude, I'm a big fan of his delivery, like his vocal delivery on this
Same.
album. For me, that song "To Cross the Bridge," oh my god,
Yeah.
It's almost like you're walking down the path to like the gallows, and this is the song that's like in your head, kind of making you stronger so that you can fuck up everybody around you
gotcha.
and not die.
Yeah.
It's like, this is. I don't. Whoever started calling them doom thrash, which is a genre title that I later
Sure.
borrowed for something else.
Sure.
I mean, they got it right. They got it absolutely right with this
Which
album.
is such a weird thing to combine,
Doom and thrash, of course.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
thrash is technicality, it's almost speed, it's never down tuned necessarily.
Yep.
And yet doom is like this slow, heavy, and yet they pull it off
Plotting,
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'm with you.
it's such a good album.
It really is. And again, I never tire of it. I do think it's like 9 songs and they just, every song delivers. Every single one of them. And I do love, like I said, this one by far, the songs are much longer, except for the Silverback.
Right.
Which is fun because it's kind of like, look, we're showing you where we're going and we're going to be progressing, but don't think for a fucking second we can't just do a straight out banger.
Yes.
We know how to get the pit going, everybody.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
worry about it. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, closing it off with an instrumental, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't sound the same, and maybe it was just the first one that came to my mind, but I got kind of Call of Cthulhu vibes from it. From Metallica.
Yeah.
The way it opens with the slow, goes into that heavy, we progress, goes, and then ends with the slow again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just like, again, previous albums didn't have instrumentals. And, sometimes going out on a limb with an instrumental could be a little, And by the way, we're not doing 2-minute instrumental here. This isn't an interlude. Like, we're fucking going for it.
This is going to be almost a full song instrumental.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, technically it is a full song. So, I mean, what am I saying?
Well, but yeah, I mean, it's just like, but to do that, again, it's clear to me that they were really trying, like, we see where we want to go.
Yes.
Maybe it isn't fully formed yet, but we see where we're trying to get to.
This is the one where they're like, we got to get out of this, not necessarily trap,
I know
but
what you
out
mean.
of this shell that we are building for ourselves, plot a new road for
Absolutely.
us. And they did it with their guitars and their drums and they're yelling,
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's elements of what we're going to see with his singing, and he's not singing. He's not the like the Falconist and songs
Right.
like that, where we're really hearing him kind of present what you would call, I have in finger quotes since you can't see it, singing. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
there are elements of here where he kind of does that a little bit, where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we're going there now.
he
Okay.
carries a melody.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not necessarily screamed or
Right.
shouted.
Right.
But he does carry a melody, and it's almost like gruffly spoken.
Yes,
But it's
yes.
always in that phlegmy, and I'm saying phlegm, not lemmy with a phlegmy delivery, which just adds to the intensity.
For sure.
Because
For
it
sure.
adds. You listen to Matt Pike, and you're like, that dude is really into whatever he's talking about right now.
And it brings a sense of what's the word I want to use? Like, again, even his vocals can drive the song a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
Because there's a immediacy to what he's saying, because he is yelling it, but not in a hardcore yell,
Right.
not in a scream.
Right.
It's just this like,
It's like an anguish
well,
almost.
you know who it kind of reminds me of? I was thinking, it's almost like if they went and got Tom Waits to sing for a sludge band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can hear him gargling either glass, maybe it's like,
Sand,
Yeah, right, it's a
yeah,
little
yeah.
mixture he's got going on out there.
Yep,
You know what I mean?
yep.
And it's like, it's perfect for the band because it adds what they already have, which is a little bit of that grit.
It
And his
also
voice
adds
that.
and I'm using this word not in any sort of like pejorative type of way, but like emotion.
Oh,
you know?
for sure.
Like
Yeah.
Whatever the emotion is,
Yes.
the vocals certainly add to it, in addition to the guitar riff.
Yes.
Because the guitar riffs already let you know what's gonna happen, right?
For sure.
And then the vocals kick in, and it's like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to feel like when I'm
Yes.
listening to this,
Yes.
right? Yeah, and oh my God, it's such a good album.
Oh, it is, and it's just like I love how they can transition. A song like "Face of Oblivion." The
Yeah.
riff they start with is not the riff that is the song.
Right.
I love when they do stuff like that. And by the way, you're almost like, are you wasting riffs? Like that could have been a whole song, just that riff.
Right. Yeah. Are you,
You
sure
know?
you don't want to go back to
Right.
that?
And
Like,
in some ways, that is another connection to Sabbath, where it's like, I'm going to do an intro that an entire band would base their entire career off
Yep.
of. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And yet I'm just going to use it as an intro.
Yeah.
I think those are the things that, the Blessed Back Wing riff comes to mind too. It's like, it's really, the word that came to my mind was like Neanderthal. Like it's so
Oh, for
just
sure.
like knuckle dragging, like just metal,
Yeah. Yeah,
again.
yeah.
And it's just, yeah. No, they're a fantastic band. I think they're all extremely talented. I do miss Dez's drumming, no
Sure.
doubt.
Yes, for
Cody
sure.
he's amazing to listen to. And listen, when he plays the Dez stuff, he does a fantastic job.
Fantastic, yes.
The one that will probably be in their line forever, and thank God, is like Rumors of War.
Oh,
you
yeah.
got to have the drums popping in that thing.
Yep,
And
yep.
he hits it every single time,
Yeah.
But it's just like, that's, you mentioned that with like, the amount of amps and so on and so forth. But it's like, yeah, Dez's drums. I mean, my God. His bass drum looks like a monster tire. It's like it should say Bigfoot on it. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you can barely see the guy behind his drum kit when he would play. And you're
Yep.
just like, good Lord.
I
And
remember
it's-
seeing them at the Glass House.
Okay,
with
nice.
Kailesa.
Oh, wow. What a
And
great show.
I was off to the side of the stage,
Uh-huh.
so I could see Dez playing everything he was playing, and I'm like, firstly, you're using tree trunks as your drumsticks,
Well, yeah.
and you're playing that fast,
yeah.
and that complicated. Like, guy, come on, give us a break.
Yeah,
you know?
no,
Like,
it's like I said, the way they are able to riff, and he can fill in pockets that allow Mike to essentially let that chord ring, and he just like there's no certain songs, especially there's no sense of rest. You can't relax. It's just if the guitar is off, no big deal because that drumming is still going, you know. And it just that I would say is, I don't play an instrument in any way, shape, or form, but drums have always been something I love. I love the sound of a good drummer, and that is something that I always point out when it comes to High on Fire. I think it's. I wouldn't say their secret weapon because I think everybody knows. You know what I mean? But it's just like, when you can combine those two together.
It's as much, a weapon in their, catalog as the guitar is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. It'd be so easy to let Matt essentially be the guitar god, and that's what's nice to see it now too. Is again with Jeff in the band, like he is such a fantastic bass player.
Yes,
can play guitar too. So the two of them writing together is amazing.
Yeah,
and then you bring in Cody, who just is like killing it behind that drum kit.
Yeah,
and it's just like you see it elevate them in so many ways.
Right.
And
it's
great to see.
Yeah, drums were actually one of my first instruments. Mm-hmm. So whenever I hear a band like this, where the drums, are as present as they are,
right?
It's such a highlight. And I know a lot of bands sometimes talk about like the economy of a riff or the economy of like the drums or whatever.
Sure.
And they cut, they hold back on how present they're gonna be. And then like the 70s had like the big drum solos or whatever.
Right.
But here's a band who's like, no. We're gonna just throw it into a salad bowl and eat the mush, and you're gonna get high on fire.
Yeah.
Right. Like and you're gonna like it because we all do.
It's just pure energy. It's just energy.
Ferocity.
And that for sure. The aggressiveness of it all is just again.
Like the guitar tones already have a bite.
Yes.
There's no way they'd have a bassist who doesn't have as much of a musical presence as the actual guitar.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So they needed a giant of a person like Joe Preston and now Jeff Matz, thankfully.
Yeah.
But again, the gigantic drums just being there, it makes sense. It makes sense that everything is bigger and better with this band,
Absolutely. Because you're right. 'Cause like you said, with the drums, like, maybe another drummer would just choose to play just the beat and just kind of let the, guitars do everything. But I love that they just like, and it, obviously so much of this it depends on band to band.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
of
is
course.
nice that Meg White is essentially I'm just going to play the beat.
Right.
So that it leaves these pockets of openness. Cool.
Sure.
With High on Fire, it's like, if I see a pocket, I got to fill it.
I'm going to fill it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to fill it with guitar or drums or bass,
yes.
or I'm going to yell over everything.
Right. Especially on this album. It's like, wait, is that silence? Fuck that. Get
Yeah,
back in the
exactly,
studio.
yeah, exactly.
Put
Yeah.
something in there. I don't care what it is, But yeah, no, I just, again, to me, in so many ways, it's just, a lot of it is just the perfect. I mean, again, Steve Albini, big fan. We both are. His production, especially even before even knowing who Steve Albini was.
Yeah.
I just look at my record collection and realize, Jesus, this guy's pretty much formed the way my ears hear everything at this point.
We pretty much paid for electrical audio to be a thing with the purchase of all those records we have of his.
So, and I think it's interesting because after this, they go with Jack Endino, another great producer whose production work I very much like.
Yeah.
So it was interesting that, I know I'd have to look, but I don't know. They've changed producers pretty much with every album, have they not?
Kurt Ballew's done, I think, like 3 or maybe 4 at this point. Maybe
really?
3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he did.
We did the last one.
He did the last one, and I think he did Electric Messiah.
Okay.
Which, and then the Vermis Mysteries.
Okay.
So I think it's 3 that he's done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see them kind of try new things, and then they obviously they like Kurt and they've stuck with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you definitely like God, if I could have got one more with old Steve Albini.
Steve Albini.
Nice.
Oh man, yeah. That's gonna, I think at one point we're gonna have to do an episode of like what ifs, what if scenarios, and just kind of fantasize about everything under the sun. Steve Albini producing more High on Fire albums is definitely on that
for
list.
sure. And again, in an interview I read, they absolutely love their time with him. They
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah.
really good. The guy just like they were just like he is such a wizard behind that thing, man. It's just like the way he's able to capture sound and so on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just again to me, it's one of my favorite sounding High on Fire records. So it's just very interesting to see they only did one with him. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, what could have been? in that way.
Thankfully we have it.
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
thankfully it's again 9 songs, 10 if you're able to find it with the bonus song. It's
Right.
just under an hour.
Yeah.
But it's just under an hour of nothing but crushing riffs, amazing tones, you know, song lyrics that have you wondering like, where is this guy pulling this from?
Yeah.
What world, what fantastical sword and sorcery world do you come from that you're preaching to us about these tales, right?
And a good repeat. Like it's one of those albums you
Very
can
much so.
once it's done, let it go again, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've certainly done that this past week.
Yeah,
You
well.
know, just talking about doing this for this album.
Yes, of course. Of
I
course.
did
Same.
mention to you, you know, I must have listened to it about 10 times this week.
Yeah,
which-
I'm usually a person who, over and over, I like to put it away to miss it and bring it back. But this one, it's been in the car almost all week, you know, and so it's like every time I step in, it's just Mike and the gang saying hello, you know,
Yep.
and sometimes even an album I love, it's just like I go, God, I just don't want to hear it again, but I haven't got there yet at all with it. It's just the repeatability of it all is just, and another thing you could say about it too, I think is which is always the sign of a good album to me is every time I hear it, for the most part, there's something new I notice.
Yes.
You know, that maybe I didn't catch the first time.
Yep.
And I think that's the sign of a fantastic album almost every time. Is just when you can revisit it and cling to the things you remember and love, but also go, oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Oh,
one thing I like doing, especially with Matt Pike being the guitarist he is I don't know necessarily how many times he like layers his guitars, but I always like going back and listening and saying, oh, that's another layer right there.
I gotcha.
Like, that's another little thing he's not, he doesn't do the previous time or the time after.
The little
know?
change. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
just
what you
the
mean.
little variances that he does every time he goes through the song, and it's fun for me. I like, of course, listening to the bass, being that I was born with a bass. But yeah, like it's just fun. It's fun to pick everything apart, and then when you're done dissecting it, it's like, oh, let me get hit in the face again by this song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, great band, great album. It definitely in my pantheon of all-time great albums.
Yeah.
I definitely saw it made tons of like Kerrang and other lists of
Yep.
in the 21st century or best sludge albums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But to see them continue with such a great career, and when you invest in any band that early,
Yes.
and
exactly.
it's nice to see you're like, well, here we are, album number 9, and we're still kicking ass, taking names, and progressing too.
I would
That-
also say this is a good one to introduce anybody who's not heard them before.
Again, yes, as I said at the beginning, because I totally agree. Is like I said, because I think it's like a bridge album.
Yep.
If you like this, you will definitely like their first 2 albums.
Yeah.
But if you like this, you will also not be jarred at what you're going to hear if you skip a
Upcoming,
few.
right.
As they progress, for sure.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to rank this album out of 10 or anything like that?
I mean, I'll try to put my bias aside, because again, I just return to it all the time when I go like, every morning before I go to work, I go into my little closet there with all my CDs, and I just kind of like, what am I going to pick? And if it's feeling like a High on Fire day, I'm usually going to grab Blessed Back Wings. It just
Okay.
is, Wow.
I sprung this one on
Well,
you.
because you want to reserve those 10s for absolute 10s.
For absolute 10s.
You know what I mean?
they can all be absolute 10s
Well,
for all
in
I'm
some ways
concerned.
they kind of all are, right? I'll go 9.5. 9.5 for me.
Okay.
It's just again, I don't have anything bad to say about it. I really, really do not. And I tried to be critical when I was listening and think of something that kind of, and it's just, you have Albini, you have the 3 of them, and it's just everything I love about the band, and the nostalgia of always remembering this is where I first got introduced to them.
I'm going to agree with the 9.5.
All right, right on.
Yeah, 9.5 out of 10.
I will accept your offer of 9.5 then.
For the same reasons. Steve Albini,
Yeah.
huge name in music,
Yeah.
right? I'm not a fan of like Nirvana or anything like that. But when I found out that he's working with these bands in genres that I do enjoy,
Right.
and to know that this was one of them,
Yeah.
and goddamn, what an album, right? What an
Yeah.
album. And of course, you have Matt Pike, Des Kensel, and again, the almighty Joe Preston.
For sure.
I am a gigantic fan of his bass playing, and just in general.
I got you.
I do think he got kind of shortchanged by the Melvins. But when they did those EPs for each band member,
Oh, that's right. He was part of that.
yeah, his was by far my favorite.
Okay, interesting.
Just
I'm
by
not a
far.
big Melvins guy, so.
I'm not anymore,
Okay.
but that one, it's got like droney parts,
Okay,
and like
interesting.
the person on the cover of that isn't even him, because I think they were mad at him at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's such a great EP.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend it.
Right on.
But yeah, Drones is another
Yeah.
of his projects, what I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I like that they credited their amp repairman in the
Oh, do
liner
they?
notes. Yeah, which is hilarious,
Yeah.
right? Because of course they would. Of course they
Shocker.
would.
That they're breaking them. Well, who'd have guessed?
Yeah. Like, but yeah, this is a fantastic album. Again, if you haven't heard High on Fire, where have you been all these years? But for real,
Why are you even listening to this podcast?
exactly.
I'm joking,
Stop
I'm joking.
this and go listen to it, and
Just
then
play
come
60
back.
seconds. That's all we need.
Yeah. But yeah, cool. That was High on Fire's Blessed Black Wings. 20 years, I think, right?
25.
25.
2005, if I'm doing my math right.
Well,
and I'd
it's
have to take my shoes off at this point.
2025.
Yeah.
So it's 20 years.
20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So
See, don't trust my
happy.
math.
So it can definitely drink and drive and join the military,
It's crazy. Yeah, 20. Jesus Christ. Wow.
right?
Wow. I mean, I don't care about feeling old or whatever, because the other part, the alternative, in my opinion, is way worse. So
Yeah.
But it is crazy to think that this album is 20 years old, and I still feel like, as you said, this would be the album I'd hand to somebody and say, "You've never heard High on Fire? Check this
this
out."
one out, yeah.
And it doesn't feel dated in any way, shape, or form.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what we want to do now is take a moment and read some listener emails, and here goes. Thanks, guys. That's all. No, I'm kidding. We actually did get a comment on one of our episodes.
Spotify, where you can leave comments now.
Yeah. I did not know this, but
Yeah. Please be kind.
please be kind. Don't hurt my feelings.
My ego is very, very fragile.
We have emotions and feelings. And we still.
No, but honestly, and I know Nick feels the same. We would love to hear from anyone listening to this, positive, negative,
Yeah.
critique, anything. I mean, honestly, we are having a blast doing this. We're having so much fun. This is really awesome. But we definitely, listen, critiques help. You know what I mean? And we want to put out the best stuff that we can possibly do. We
Yeah,
love hearing
yeah.
from people. And let's just know that we're not just talking to ourselves, although we would still do this
Also,
if we
we
were
would-
just
yeah,
talking,
definitely, yeah.
talking to ourselves. But it is nice to know people are listening. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, so this comment was left by Jason.
Yes, sir.
Which people don't know him. He is pretty much a staple around the Southern California, LA scene.
For sure.
He is the vocalist for the band Gravehill. Used to be their bassist. And he left this comment behind for one of our previous episodes regarding the burnout or fade out with regards to musicians.
Yes, sir. So he says, in the end, it's totally up to the artist, of course. But I guess it's a huge gray area on whether you should hang it up or keep going. What bothers me is if an artist isn't capable of doing it anymore, yet he or she is being milked dry. Frankie Valli is barely able to stand, much less sing, yet his people still have him doing shows. You can see that he's barely cognizant of what's going on, and it's pitiful. Yet I feel with Ozzy, he's still there mentally, somewhat, but knows his limits.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I mean, in the end, he is correct. Like he says,
Sure.
Of course, it is up to the artist. I'm
course,
not
of
here
course.
to dictate that. But I agree. I mean, if Frankie Valli, that video has surfaced, oh my God. It's just like, I'm looking for the strings. You know what I
Right,
mean? It's
right.
like, it's just, are they doing, oh God, of course I can't remember what's the one with the dead guy and the two guys are,
Weekend at Bernie's.
yeah, is Weekend at Bernie's
Yeah,
3 am I
yeah.
watching here? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, it is crazy to me. Again, as I said in our episode, how anybody who loves doing that comes to terms with saying I can't do this anymore.
I know it's difficult.
Well, especially if it's not taken from them.
Right.
You
right.
know, somebody, I don't know why it just came to mind, but like Linda Ronstadt, unfortunately, I think she has Parkinson's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's an absolute shame. One of the great voices all time, you know, and a great artist. But unfortunately, Parkinson's took that away from her, so she has no choice.
Right.
In that matter. So yeah, and as far as the Ozzy thing is concerned, maybe he's seen other things that I haven't. I saw him at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Cognizant is certainly what he is, I guess. It's just if he can't stand and he's only going to play parts of Black Sabbath songs,
how much of
what
that
are we
really
paying for then?
Yeah, you know.
What are we really paying for? And again, I love, as we expressed in the thing, I love Ozzy. I mean, a special place in my heart for that man. So it's just I think that's where I balk because it hurts me to see him that way.
Yeah. I agree. It ultimately is up to the performer, right? I mean, I think that's the given.
Yes, of course. It's the easy answer.
Sure.
We all agree, but
and but that's also something I mentioned in that episode where I wish when people got to that stage in life, there was something that would help them kind of ease out of being a performer.
Yeah.
You know, or let them kind of slow it down so that they could still kind of fade out with a little bit of grace, you know?
Course.
You know, and again, I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite again.
No.
Well, you know, we talk about all the what ifs,
Right.
like what if Jimi Hendrix were still around? What if Jim Morrison were still around? You
Right.
know, but do we really want to see, burnt out Jim Morrison, you know, trying to keep up with everybody else? You know,
I mean, at some point, nobody has a perfect track record. Right. You know, as I mentioned, and I've mentioned, I usually use that as the thing is like, Minor Threat goes down in history as one of the great punk bands. Well, they have one album and an EP.
Yeah.
We didn't get their shit album. We didn't get the
Right.
hey, we're gonna do reggae now album.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where what the fuck?
Yep.
So, you know, and let's be honest, if you are a true artist, I believe anyway,
Yeah.
you're going to experiment. You're going to sometimes stretch your boundaries and push out towards something that maybe you're not going to make really great.
Sure.
So you're always going to be, you know, daring to do different things, which can, you know, then you look back and go, oh, remember that? Oh, man, he really lost, jumped the shark or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, it would be nice to have all these artists kind of die at a certain time where we can all remember them when they were at their greatest and at their peak. You know?
Also, the reason we remember them being so great is because they did stop when they stopped, whether it was
No doubt.
natural,
Of
you know,
course.
reasons or otherwise.
Of course.
Right? Like the reason we hold them to such esteem is because that's what they gave us, and that's the only thing they gave us.
Yeah, it makes it easier to do for sure.
Right.
I mean, we don't, you know, again, and maybe that was their thinking at the time. Maybe that's
Sure.
what Minor Threat did. Is go,
Yeah,
like, dude,
yeah.
we're never going to top that.
Yeah.
So let's call it
You
a
know,
day.
We can only imagine that being the case, right?
I mean, and that's the thing. we don't know. As we were talking, like you mentioned, Morrison. We both would agree. I think L.A. Woman is probably one of their best albums.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't know they were going out on that album, and I know they have.
There's two
We
albums.
have albums we don't talk about. But you know what I'm saying? It's like they didn't know they were going out on that album, and
Right.
yet, holy shit.
Yeah, as
You
far
know?
as that lineup is concerned, that's their last album.
That's it.
And what an album.
What a
right?
high note to go out
Right,
on, you know? Another one that we love, Creedence.
Yeah. Oh,
Start
yeah.
getting into Pendulum and some of the, you know, it's like
Yep.
if they'd have called it after Cosmo Factory, maybe, you know, but I still think they're the greatest American band ever. But you know what I mean? I mean, we both were huge fans of
Sure,
Creedence.
yeah, of course.
So yeah, no, it's as we stated in the thing, it's a fun debate. It's an interesting discussion, but in the end, there really is no.
There's
good
no right answer. Yeah.
And I guess the thing I would want more than anything else, for all the joy that somebody like Ozzy has brought to me,
Yeah.
if this brings him joy, you do it.
Do
pal.
it.
You're not
Do it.
hurting anybody.
No,
You know, I'm not paying the money to go see you, so I ain't losing that cash either.
yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's like you do you, man. Because if this is what's bringing you joy, thank you for all the joy you brought me.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think, and again, thank you for the comment, man. I
Thank
love
you,
that.
Jason,
you know?
for the comment. Thank you so much. Just to give everybody a heads up, Jason and his partner Noel are throwing an event on April 13th out in Redlands. It is called Metal Meltdown, and will be held at Ritual Brewing Company. You can look for that online. I'm pretty sure they have posts about it on Instagram and Facebook. Noelle will be DJing as DJ Iron Bitch, I believe. She's also
Wait a minute, that's my name.
what a coincidence. She's also vending, I believe, with her damaged case goods, which I actually got a very nice Conan the Barbarian wall plaque. So
Oh, is that who?
yeah, she's
Oh,
yeah
I've seen her at what's the other one they do with the merchandise where you go as like records and
the metal swap meet stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I've
mean
seen her stuff.
they've
Oh,
they've
wow.
both been around for
Well,
a while.
I know I've
you know.
seen this
The
Jason,
plaques and stuff, yeah.
and her stuff. Yeah. Oh, I did not
Yeah,
know that
so
they were together. Okay.
April
interesting.
13th. If you're interested, head out to Redlands, catch a couple bands, and they'll have food vendors and music vendors as well. So check them out. And thank you, Jason, for the comment.
Yes, thank
Super
you again.
appreciate it. If anybody else has anything they'd like to let us know, please do. Criticisms are welcome as well.
And if you DM me, I will send you nudes.
So will I, but I don't know what I'm taking pictures of.
His angles are amazing.
All right. So what have you been listening to?
Let's see. Listening to two big ones that I was listening to quite a bit. One, not a discovery. One I've always loved, but I just really deep dive Crowbar.
Hell
Was
yeah.
watching a podcast that you and I share from time to time. They were doing the best riffs of all time, and Crowbar made some, and I was just like, motherfucker, I ain't listened to some Crowbar in a long time. So I want to deep dive Crowbar. I just, God, they're just so fucking good, man. I mean, Kirk is just, you talk about emotive. You talk about, they are to Sludge what Warning is to Doom in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The way they are able to emote and yet never lose any of the heaviness or anything, and then even doing a different style of heavy,
Yeah.
like just not just heavy riff, but emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to that raw nerve of his that he is able to expose on these songs. And, I mean, I have failed songs like that. Just like
Yes.
they crush you, not just in the riff,
Right,
not just because every guy in the band's like 400 pounds, but also because, you know what I mean? It's just like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
And it's just,
That's such a great band. Yeah.
they really are. And sometimes I think underrated. I think we forget
Very much so.
how
I mean,
influential they truly are.
They do, they're out there. They play the shows,
Yeah.
and I know when they play, it's
Yeah,
a packed house every
absolutely.
time, right? But I agree with you. I think sometimes they're left out of certain conversations
For sure.
for some reason or another. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
you know?
and they've obviously in our world they have reached success.
Yeah.
But there feels like there's another level that they've just. And I don't know. Well, as we were talking before with High on Fire winning a Grammy, I don't know if Crowbar's even been nominated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And yet,
Yeah.
I would put them in the same world as a High on Fire. These
sure.
are going to be bands that we're going to look back in 20, 30 years and
Yep.
say, these were pillar bands that really did it for us.
Great, great word. Pillar bands. Yeah.
I just love that. They're just so fucking good. And, the consistent member is Kurt. I mean,
Yes.
it really is. He's had a Sammy Duet from Acid Bath and,
yeah,
and Goat Whore. Todd Strange. He's come
Yeah.
back and forth. Obviously, Jimmy Bauer has come in and out of that band. And it's just like, but the one constant is Kirk, and it's just fuck, man.
And what a
Every
constant.
album. What's that?
And what a constant,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I mean,
Like, it's,
dude, again, and a guy. Why isn't he talked about in the great riffers of all? I mean,
Dude,
he
I mean,
is.
he
I had
has-
a shirt that said Riff Master with him on it.
There
you know?
there is something known as like the Crowbar chord.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, and it's
good.
It's fucking gigantic when you play it, and then once you play it, you're like, oh, I'm keeping this in my repertoire.
Right on.
You know, like,
Another band that does that High on Fire thing too, usually about once an album, where it's like, no, I know these are all low and slow, but here's one that's about to take your balls off and the
Yeah.
band's going to start. You know.
Yep.
Yeah. The other one was a discovery actually, and I cannot get enough of the album that they have. They technically have an album and an EP, and that's it. Swing Kids. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No, I'm not.
I guess they would be post-hardcore band out of San Diego. I hit the Barry about this because he seems to know a lot of like the San Diego
San
stuff.
Diego
He
stuff,
was like,
yeah.
"Holy shit, I haven't thought of that band in forever." I try to do I guess this podcast can go as long as we want, especially with my running of the mouth. But I actually caught on to this. There's a documentary. It's on Amazon right now of the guy he's in Locust.
Okay.
And runs the label that I think Locust may be on. These Swing Kids. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. I thought it was interesting they were doing a documentary because I was also like, oh God, is this did he die? Is that why they're doing a documentary? on him?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, he's alive. Like, that's interesting. Okay, but
Thanks for scaring me.
well, just
All right.
trying to figure out like. He's not doing it about him, is
Right.
he? So who's
yeah,
doing
yeah.
it about him if he's alive? You know what I mean?
Who's
So
on
just-
first?
Right. He's on second. And so he just, did his whole career. And in the middle of that was this band called Swing Kids. It was his second band that he was in. They broke up ultimately, sadly. The guitar player, he plays, I believe, bass. So they had 2 guitars, bass, drums, influenced by free jazz, though don't totally hear it in their music, but
Okay.
I hear what they're saying. The guitarist ended up committing suicide, killing himself.
that's
Yeah,
a
sadly,
tragedy.
dealing with depression, stuff like that. So the band broke up after that. But literally, the album's called Discography or Anthology. Anthology has an EP that they did along with what's on the Discography album, I think, or Anthology or whatever. So they don't even have a name for it. So I looked it up because I'm like, maybe I'll buy it. I'll just see if they. But I thought, well, this band isn't even together anymore. What am I? Well, shit! Right there on Spotify, they're playing the Casbah on March 30th.
Holy shit.
Yeah, which if there were other bands that I want to see, I would seriously consider it, and also if it wasn't on Sunday.
Right.
But I was like, oh fuck, and then I went to their record label. Oh no, you can buy their record. So yeah,
Cool.
it's
That's
needless
cool.
to say it's on order. Just been post-hardcore. The reason I threw it at Barry because another band that we all share, the 3 of us, not drive like Jehu, but Jehu-ish.
Okay.
Much more punk.
Yeah.
But that angular, weird kind of. Both guitars aren't necessarily playing the same thing.
Kind of propaganda-ish.
I don't. Be honest. I only know the name. I don't
Oh,
think I've
wow.
ever heard them.
All right.
So apologize to those out there who are now slapping their forehead saying "What the fuck?" But yeah, it's just that kind of. That's the vibe I got from them right
Yeah.
away, and I have just had that thing on repeat at work. I
Cool.
just
Hell yeah.
really love it. Very aggressive shit. Other than that, obviously High on Fire. I've been listening to
High on
Blessed
Fire,
Black Wing,
okay.
and I listened to Surrounded by Thieves, and I listened to Death's Communion. Give kind of context, where the
Yeah.
band was going. Other than that, no, that's really it. A little Wayne Train Hancock. I love him. Country kind of stuff. And then I'm kind of coming towards the end of my Merle Haggard or my Waylon Jennings, and I'm now going into a Merle Haggard kind of deep dive.
That's been going on for a while now, right?
I've always been I've always been a country fan, especially the older stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Hank Williams, easily one of my top artists of all time. The King of Sorrow in every sense of the word. I just absolutely love him. I got into it, if I'm being completely honest, I got into it because I like Johnny Cash.
Sure.
And then, of course, there's these metal connections. Hank 3, I really like a lot of his early shit, especially. So then it was like, okay, just keep going backwards.
Yeah.
And the other thing that really got me down this road, a great podcast I would recommend after you listen to ours, obviously. Cocaine and Rhinestone. David Allan Coe, one of the great singer-songwriters in country music, also a little controversial, but either way, we won't get into that. But his son does it. And I would recommend it for music fans in general, to be honest with you, but especially if you like country. It's such a deep dive. Each episode's probably like close to 2 or 3 hours. And you can really, this guy, he does his fucking research. And it really brought me to a lot of these artists where I'm like, they deserve a deep dive. And I like songs from them. So why am I only hearing those songs, So yeah, did that. Other than that, that's it. How about yourself? Anything new or exciting?
So for some weird reason, I started really getting into Blood Aus Nord.
Yeah, that's one they are hard to penetrate.
I'm playing in this new band, and
Right on.
our drummer kind of mentioned them.
Okay.
I don't even know him if in passing. He was just like, "Hey, do you like this band, Blood Aus Nord?" And I was like, I never really gave him a shot, so I went home and did just that.
Any
And
particular album?
I don't even know the names of their albums.
no,
That's how new they are to me.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I've
The
heard their
name-
stuff before.
Yeah,
but they're from France.
Yes.
Um,
Somewhat avant-garde.
Avant-garde-ish,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah, you
Black
know.
metal.
yeah, and it's so good. Like maybe the last the latest couple of albums that
Okay.
they have. You know, I really like an album with really good production.
I hear you.
Especially if it's black metal.
I hear you.
I know there are folks that enjoy the raw stuff and all that.
You're
but
talking to 'em.
Yeah, you know, but I'm like, come on, it's 2025. They don't even make those tape recorders anymore.
I am a sucker for it every time. Ooh, that sounds like it's recorded in a toilet.
Yeah,
Hear more
yeah.
of that.
Sold. Yeah. But yeah, like these guys, it's I don't know, man. It sounds mystical. I don't know if it's meant to be, but it sounds really good to my ears.
I got
so
you.
everything that I can find of theirs, I just listen to it and I love it. You
Right
know, I
on.
love the playing on it.
I know a lot of people whose tastes I respect very much like that band. I mean, they are a highly touted band for sure.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised I haven't gotten into them anymore in the
Okay.
past. You know, because I mean they've been around for a good minute.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, but yeah, I love everything I'm hearing
Right on.
about them.
Right on.
Them, I was listening to two other bands because a person I'm going to mention a lot in these episodes, Amy, my wife, she recently went to New York to catch a show in Long Island.
Oh, yes. I know where you're going with this.
So, Silent Majority, one of the Long Island hardcore greats, played. But so did a semi-version of Vision of Disorder.
Fuck yeah.
So I love Vision of Disorder.
Yeah.
As you and I both
Yes.
I do, and Amy, of course.
Yes.
But yeah, so she had the pleasure of seeing them in a tiny little hall that I've been in as well. And when I tell you that place is tiny, it's actually smaller than this room we're in right now.
Wow. Oh,
You
my
know?
God.
Yeah,
I
dude.
can't
So
even
just imagine, right?
Oh, fuck.
So, you know, listening to both Silent Majority and Vision of Disorder kind of put me in that headspace,
Right
you know?
on.
So I kind of enjoyed that show from afar.
Right on.
She got to enjoy it from a close.
Right. I saw some pictures, yeah.
Yeah. So, like,
Ugh.
you know, just the fact that she was there and got to enjoy that's awesome.
Now, there was a rumor of the vision disorder thing, or was it actually known that it was going to happen?
You know-
I think early on she was saying there was like rumor that it could, but
She said it was rumors.
Okay.
And then she said something about, like, Long Island hardcore can't keep a secret, so it was known.
okay.
But I guess it wasn't the full band either.
Okay,
right. So,
interesting.
but another of her, you know, she has a bunch of acquaintances out there still.
Right.
I guess they were maybe the backing band for the portions that didn't show up.
Oh, okay.
Right. But it was cool nonetheless, right?
yeah.
To hear those songs being played.
Yes.
She and I saw them play out here at I think the Whiskey or the Roxy,
Oh,
one
wow.
of those.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Oh,
it was
dude.
awesome, right? It was super awesome.
Those first two especially are just
Yeah,
the self-titled and imprint are just
Yes,
fucking
yeah.
amazing records, dude.
Yeah, so that was cool. So I've been listening to that.
And a short note, real quick. By the way, their first album is going to be reissued on, I think, Music for Nation or whatever. The one that always does these like really great reissues. I have
Oh,
one like
yeah,
Faith
yeah.
No More. It's going to be reissued here in the next couple of months.
Well,
Yeah,
guess
just
I
heads up
guess
for anybody.
I guess I know what I'm buying in a
Yes.
couple months.
Yeah, don't buy yours until we get ours. Okay.
yeah. So that's what I've been listening. What have you been watching?
Finally started watching some new stuff. Actually.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, some very good stuff too. Let's see. First one was I was looking forward to seeing this, and it came on Hulu finally. A movie called Cuckoo.
All right.
I guess big picture would be in the horror genre, but more of a thriller. It's not blood guts, that kind of thing. Really enjoyed it. Very weird. What the fuck is going on here kind of thing. Mom dies. The girl's probably 17, 18 years old. New dad, new mom, new daughter. They all move into this really weird community up in the, I think this takes place in Europe. They never actually say, I don't think. And it just, people don't act right in this community, and what the hell's going on, kind of thing. And you just go for the ride, man. And it was definitely worth it. Definitely,
it's a movie or a series?
It's a movie.
All right.
Yeah. Cuckoo. Really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if there's nobody really in it that's too well known or anything like that. There are people. If you were watching it, you would go, "Oh, I've seen that guy in something." You know what I mean? But yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Saw another one, Elevation.
You told me about this one?
Yeah, Captain America. The new Captain America's in it. Interestingly enough, Deadpool's woman is also in it.
Oh, all right.
Creatures come out of the earth, but they cannot pass 9,000 feet. So the rest of the people who are left on Earth that are alive all live over in the hills at 9,000 feet and are trying to figure out how to defeat these creatures.
They live on stilts.
Yeah. Not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
This is not going to, shocker, was not nominated for an Oscar. But
Just missed out.
yeah, it was fun though. You know what I mean? Like, the creatures look cool. It's, you know, I'm sure if I quizzed you, you could tell me exactly what the movie did and you didn't even see it. You know what I mean? Like, no, there are no surprises in it. You know what I mean? But entertaining. And the last one that I watched that was new that I was very interested in because I am such a fan of the originals, the new Hellboy movie.
The Crooked Man.
The Crooked Man.
Yeah,
yes. So I remember seeing the previews for this and being like, it looks like somebody made a really cheap horror film and decided to put Hellboy in it. So now, full disclosure, never a fan of the comics. I was only introduced to it through the movie. I walked out of that movie, and as far as I was concerned, I was a lifelong fan. I wanted to get a tattoo of fucking Hellboy.
Nice.
This was the coolest comic hero I'd ever seen. Plus, you're putting Guillermo del Toro,
Yep.
and you couldn't have cast anyone better than Ron Perlman as Hellboy,
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion. So those first two, I think, are amazing. They are in my probably top 10, 15, 20 movies all time.
Nice.
So it was already kind of behind the eight ball going into this one.
Yeah.
And even the one they made, the David Harbour one that they remade.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just rewatched that again. Every time I watch it, I like it a little bit more.
It's a lot closer to the comics.
That's what I have told,
Yeah.
and that's what I have heard, and I understand that. And it is darker in many ways also,
Yeah.
and I do like that. But every time I watch it, I like it just a little bit more. I didn't hate it, but it was just like, you got some big fucking shoes to fill, pal. You know what I mean?
sure,
So this
for
better be
sure.
fucking good. And bringing in Mila Jovovich, having the guy who turns into the
Cool.
Panther, all that stuff, that was really cool. So I do like that one. So all that is to say, going into this one, I did not have high hopes. My expectations were very, very low. If I'm being honest, it actually wasn't that bad.
Okay.
It wasn't great. If you are a huge fan of the other three, you're not going to walk away thinking, well, this totally belongs with the rest of them.
Is it the same person that played Hellboy in
No.
the previous one?
No.
Different
Everybody. Yeah, there's nobody in this. The guy who plays Hellboy, I think, has played like Thug number 2.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was in something else. I did look him up just to see. He does a good job. I'll give him credit. He actually, getting that kind of smart-ass wit of Hellboy is kind of fun, you know, and he got a little bit of that. The story goes they are stuck in Appalachia in the 50s. This is supposed to be a prequel.
Oh, okay.
They're stuck in Appalachia in the 50s. They run into a guy who essentially owes a debt to a witch, and the witch is controlled by the Crooked Man. And the Crooked Man not only wants to have the debt fulfilled, he wants to go even further. I think is how it kind of goes. So Hellboy's there. He is with a government person that's with him. It's a woman. Who she has no superpowers or anything like that. She's just like a government agent that travels with him, and she knows like spells and stuff like that she can do. You know, help Hellboy along.
Yeah.
Like I said, overall it was good. There were moments that were a little, you know, at one point the guy says something about, you know, well, I made the deal with her, and you know, I had to give my eternal soul, and she was like, what? That's not right. You were a child. How could a witch do that? That doesn't even make sense. It's like, lady, you're in a church where dead people are arising, not to mention you travel with Satan's son.
Yeah.
What do you mean this doesn't make sense? Like, who wrote that? You know what I mean? But overall, I was entertained. It was cool. It was very dark, cool. But it bums me out because how much I love those first two.
Of course.
And you just go like, why are we dragging this guy through the mud a little bit, you know?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of stories that I think they could do for Hellboy. You know,
Which I guess this was one of them, right?
Yeah,
and I think
this is one of them.
I believe one of the writers. I did look. I believe one of the writers of Hellboy was one of the writers on this.
Okay, you don't know if it was Mike Mignola?
I'd have to look it up. I believe. I know one of them was a part of this
Okay.
in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You know, so you think, well, okay, if he's involved, he is the guy,
That
right?
should be good,
But
yeah.
again, not horrible.
Okay.
Also on a lower budget, so that's going to hurt a little bit when you're doing fantastical shit.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
the one thing that I still have not seen the previous one. I know my brother who's super big into comics
Right.
and like these types of movies. He raves about it, saying it's great. I know it's good just because of his reaction.
Sure.
I haven't seen this new one. It is on my to watch list.
Right on.
But yeah, I'd be interested in just finding out what the story is to see how that holds up. Because I do expect some comic book cheesiness here and there peppered in, throughout it.
And they do, and again, it feels a little more comic booky in that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just, again, I cannot detach myself from the affinity that I have for those two original ones and Ron Perlman's version of that. So anything's just going to be lesser for me.
For sure.
So, but again, entertaining. Didn't mind it. You know what I mean? I've seen worse. And then the last thing, the wife and I, we've started getting, we want to go back and watch a bunch of shows that we enjoyed the first time. It turns out my wife is enjoying some of these, I think, for the first time, actually, because she doesn't remember any of them. But 6 Feet Under, we've started doing that one again.
Series.
I love that
Oh,
one.
my God, that's such a great series.
One of the first ones I think my wife and I could sit down and watch together, where we both just really enjoyed it. Very interesting to go back and see it and just kind of knowing what we know now, kind of where we started kind of thing. So, yeah. Other than that, the usuals. I'm sure I watched Michael Clayton for the 400th time, stuff like that. How about yourself? Anything?
So still watching White Lotus.
Oh, right on. Right on.
I think we're 4 episodes in now. Still hate rich people and all that stuff. But it's kind of starting to develop into like now we know who's an asshole.
Okay.
And now we know who's the bigger asshole,
Gotcha.
right? So that's kind of cool to know where we're gonna kind of plot ourselves in that world. I watched when you mentioned Hulu. I was like, oh man, it might be this one because I watched on Hulu. I watched Night Bitch.
Oh, on my queue. Have not seen it yet.
Okay, so it's a weird movie.
Yeah.
It's a really weird movie. Not at all what I thought it was going to be. It's actually nothing of what I thought it was going to be. I enjoyed it though.
Right on.
It's
Amy Adams, right?
Amy Adams.
I love her.
I'm not giving anything away when I say she's going to turn into a dog.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be like a body horror type of horror movie.
Uh-huh.
It's not.
No.
It's not at all.
Okay.
It's actually it's a very empowering movie.
That's the sense I was getting. Yeah.
And I think if I were more of the target audience, it would resonate a little bit more.
Just so people know, Nick is neither a knight or a bitch. So that's
right.
probably
Well, I'm
why
kind of a bitch. But but I still was able to enjoy it.
Right on. Right on.
It was fun. Kind of the first half drags a little bit just to establish her mental state in that world.
I got you.
But I say drag, not not disparagingly. It's only because it's slow. It's a slow burn.
I got you.
Right?
No, yeah.
But it's fun. It's a fun movie still, and by the end, it's the end part. I was like, oh, okay, so this is gonna keep going on and on and on, right?
I got you.
But so I saw that one. Was entertained by it, and then we started watching Daredevil.
Oh, the new series.
Yeah,
Okay.
Born Again. So I'm not just watching it because he's blind and I'm blind.
And he's a lawyer.
And he's a lawyer, which, I pretend I'm one. I play one on TV. I'm huge fan of the comics.
Right.
There's The Man Without Fear. So when it first popped up on Netflix, I was super stoked. And then, Marvel took over.
Right.
And took him into the House of the Mouse, and that's where he's at now. But first episode is violent as hell. I honestly cannot believe that they got away with all this.
Now, is this a complete reboot, or is there continuation from
There's
the
definitely
Netflix?
continuation.
Okay.
Same actors, same friends, and everything.
Oh, really? All the same? Because I
All the
know
same,
D'Onofrio is definitely in it. Right.
D'Onofrio's in it.
Okay.
Charlie Cox is still playing Daredevil.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
And like the other two partners in his law firm, same people.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
In fact, the villain, which we're gonna use spoilers left and right here. So, spoilers, everybody.
The comic has been going for how long at this point?
At this point, right? So Bullseye does come out in some of the previous episodes in
Right
the first 2 series, but he's in this first episode, and what happens to him, Holy moly!
Wow,
You know?
okay, okay.
It's quite the first episode. It's
Would you say it's kind of following in the Punisher footsteps, where that was pretty fucking violent?
well,
again, now that
this
was
is
Netflix.
right up there.
Okay,
This is
good,
right
good,
up
good.
there.
Oh,
yeah,
hey.
and this is a guy who doesn't use weapons like that.
Okay.
right? So, and it's funny you say that because the Punisher is going to be in
That's
this
the room right
you
here,
know?
right?
Yeah, so he hasn't popped up yet that I'm
Okay,
aware of.
okay.
I've only taken in the first episode.
Okay.
There's 2 others out there at the time of this
Okay.
recording. But man, oh man, it's such a good episode. And there's a scene that's almost reminiscent of the famous diner scene in Heat.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, where at the end it's Kingpin and Matt Murdock, and we're not so different, you and I.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was just like, holy fuck, this is everything that I love, and not just a TV series, but everything that I love that's comic oriented.
Right on.
And of course, it's a guy that I get confused for. Not just because I bounce around on buildings and dress in a red costume.
It's really the costume.
Yeah, all right. It's the horns, everybody. It's the horns. But yeah, I've been watching that, and I recently also started watching season 3 of Twin Peaks.
Okay, right on.
I haven't been able to see this up until now because I haven't been able to find a version of it that has the audio description.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so-
oh shit.
Yeah,
oh.
so I'm in for a world of hurt apparently.
Okay.
But the good hurt.
yeah,
right?
well.
Again, David Lynch,
Absolutely.
the mastermind, the primeval deity known as David Lynch left us with a season 3 of this famed TV show.
Right on.
And I started watching. I got a couple episodes in, and I'm already like, "What the fuck?" So
That sounds like David Lynch.
yeah, exactly, right. And this is just the credits. So yeah, that one I'm gonna take my sweet ass time with because I want to make sure I absorb everything I could. But yeah, that's pretty much what we've been taking in.
You reminded me, actually, there was one other one I did see. You reminded me when you said it was kind of slow. We watched oh, God damn it. Is it Covenant? No. They went for the Oscars. It was the one where they're picking the Conclave.
Conclave. All right,
Conclave.
yeah.
Watch that. It's good. It's
Okay.
very good. I think the thing that I had it on my queue for a while, but the thing that turned me was I guess the guy who wrote Tinker Soldier Taylor, whatever it has that weird name, but great British spy thriller movie, and I really liked that one. So I was like, oh, okay, well if he wrote this, maybe go, yeah, I'll check it out a little bit more. Didn't win any Oscars or anything like that either,
Yeah.
apparently, but it was good. A lot of things, as a myself growing up Catholic and so forth, at least in name only, it was very interesting to watch. The whole idea is the Pope dies, now they got to pick a new Pope. Drama ensues, sort of thing. Seeing such the pomp and circumstance of all the bullshit they go through when it's literally just like, can we just fucking vote like we, just punch a hole in a piece of goddamn
Yeah,
paper.
just fucking throw a dart, and hit somebody.
It's so crazy, but fantastic performance. John Lithgow, Ray Fiennes, it's just really, really good performances. Really good movie. It's probably about 2 hours, but it doesn't feel long at all. But that first part, yeah, they're trying to, so they set everything up. The ending I thought was it's a little bit of a surprise at the end where you're kind of like, well, I don't think that was necessary, but whatever. You know what I mean? But all in all, it was a pretty good movie. But
All right,
yeah,
cool.
You reminded me of when you said the slow
burn,
because
yeah.
it does have that kind of same thing where you're just kind of like, well, we are really taking our time, aren't we?
Yeah, there's a lot of movies out there now that are 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours at some point. And
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Oh, for sure.
You
To
know,
me, it's,
we come
if
from
the
a
movie
time-
calls for it, then the movie calls for it.
Yeah, we come from a time where it's like a tight 90, right? Like just give us
Sometimes
90
a little
minutes.
less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm fine with them taking time to tell their story. I'm 100% into that. So yeah, that's what we've been checking out. We'll catch you guys soon.
Take it easy.
Hey folks, thank you so much for checking out the rehearsal room. We super appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, comments, or want to yell at us for any of the takes we've expressed in any of these episodes, you can contact us by emailing us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. All one word, therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and now on Blue Sky. Also, if you have any recommendations for any movies or any bands you might want us to check out and give a listen to, feel free to send those in. We always accept submissions. Or if you have any shows coming up that you feel we might be interested in checking out, let us know and we'll give you guys a shout out. But thank you for checking us out, and we'll catch you next time.